Hello everybody, and this is Snowball giving you another Snowcast, and today I would like to show you a Terran vs Protoss, more particularly a macro-oriented Terran vs Protoss, because I know for a lot of low-level players, building multiple bases, building a lot of bases, and for Terran in general, macro can be a problem. Building a lot of bases instead of going one or two bases and then pushing it all in. That tends to be a big issue, especially among the lower level Terran players. So I would like to show you a game where the Terran and the Protoss both macro up, get quite a few bases, and just play from there, and you can see how the game unfolds, what you can do as Terran to pull the game into a macro longer game, and as Protoss, what you should do and maybe what you shouldn't do in order to have a long game and figure out what to do. So in this game today, we've got E.G. Grubby playing as the Protoss bits on the bottom side, and then up at the top we've got Sterling on the top. I do not know much about Sterling as a player. I know he's played against players like Destiny, and he is top level ladder player. So other than that, I really don't know too much else about him. But down at the bottom, E.G. Grubby, if you've ever watched Warcraft 3 or if you're a Warcraft 3 following the pro scene, you'll know that E.G. Grubby is ranked as one of the highest orc players in the world at Warcraft 3. So he's making the transition over into StarCraft 2. He's doing fairly well, not as well as he'd like to, as he says in interviews and stuff, but that's, you know, that's a given, and with practice he'll be good enough. And they're talking up a storm right now, so Sterling was saying stuff earlier about how if Grubby wins, you know, it'll be a shame for In Control, who is another top level Protoss player. So right now what we've got is we've got Grubby just scouting the base. He sees the barracks done, gas going up, the barracks at 12, the refinery right after, and an orbital command, completely normal builds, and then popping out the one Marine. That is pretty much the standard thing to do as a Terran in every matchup. And here we've got the one gate and the cybernetics core going down. Chrono boosting on the Nexus to get more and more probes down. Standard macro stuff. And we've got Grubby's just checking out the base, hiding behind here. He may actually end up putting a pylon back here, which in longer games helps out a lot, because what you can do is you can warp in zealots with the pylon. Well, he gets spotted here by Sterling, so this isn't going to happen. But what you can do is you can warp in zealots with the pylon and then bring them into the mineral line, forcing the Terran to pull his army back from his second or third base all the way up here. And while you do that, you can push with your main army into his base and then take out an expansion, kill a lot of workers, that kind of thing. But the scouting probe does go down. Sterling takes out Grubby's probe, so here we go. Grubby's trying to chase down the probe, and he corners it with 5 or so probes, and Sterling is expressing verbally exactly the pain he feels when his SCV dies. So we see the command center going down, and if you look, he's only at 19 food. The army size, you can actually see in the unit counting station, he has 2 Marines, and then he's building a command center with just 1 gas. So we're going for a 1 barracks vast expand. And as you can see, we have that neither one actually knows that a command center is going down or a Nexus, but they're still both building them. So they're both going for the long macro game. It's because they're in cross positions on Metalopolis, which is known to be the longest rush distance on any map. So we've got it going on right there. That long positions, generally the defender has quite an advantage when it comes to attack, when somebody's attacking, because if you look for the Terran, these structures are right here, so that means the total walk distance for his units is that much, whereas the Protoss, if he didn't warp in, would be all the way from down here to up here. So there are a lot of different factors you have to figure out when to do macro games in this kind of builds, but in general, once you try macro games, you'll get more comfortable as you do more, and you can figure out what you can get away with. And the main key to doing this kind of play is to scout, because I know a lot of times at lower levels it can feel like stuff just happens and you're just playing, you know, you're flipping up some coins and whatever happens is what happens. But if you scout, you actually get a feel for exactly what's going on. And as you can see, pretty much constant scouting. We've got Grubby Stalkers just poking out just to see what's going on. He did see the expansion, so he knows he's safe from any early form of pressure. Terran can't put on any pressure for him. So he's safe with the expansion. He doesn't have to build any cannons or anything at his second base. And then as you can see, Sterling sacrificing his SCV to check out that Grubby does have the expansion in fact as well. So that lets them both know that they're safe on their 2 bases, and they can go for a 2-base timing push, or and then they can follow that up into an expansion. So in general, a timing push is just when your economy kicks in for your expansion. It's not right after it's done building, but after you have it saturated full of SCVs, because then when you have that, you have an advantage over an opponent who didn't put up the center. But they both went for the macro builds, so I would not be surprised to see if they both drop a 3rd base here pretty soon. Grubby is actually getting the pylon ready for his 3rd base, and Sterling is dropping his 3rd command center. So this may seem very strange to a lot of you that at 8 minutes he is building his 3rd command center, and Grubby is gearing up for his 3rd base as well. So very macro intensive game, and you can see that that's not normal. The normal 4-gate push comes around, you know, between 5 and 7 minutes depending on the chrono boost on it. So if he did scout that Grubby was going for a 4-gate build, he would have to play a lot more defensively, and there was no way he could get this 3rd base up. He'd even have trouble getting the 2nd base up against a 4-gate, even with bunkers, because bunkers, they have their 400 hit points, so they're actually really safe for a Terran player. It's very good to build those. Pretty much whenever you early expand, you want to build a bunker or 2. It gives you the extra protection you need, and it protects your units that you use them later on for things like killing their scout. But a main component of this game is constant scouting. As you can see, we've got Sterling has this tower, and right on the other side, Grubby has that tower. So you can see Grubby's line of vision. He can see both of the golds, and he can actually see the other tower that Sterling has. So they're actually both gearing up, and you can see Sterling is patrolling right here, waiting for the 3rd base of the Protoss player to go down, and he actually had a Marauder up here as well, and that just lets him know what's going on. He's going to be able to pull some army units up here and then take out these 2 stalkers. Well, and it looks like that's not going to happen, and we've got an overall command being canceled, so we've got a planetary fortress going up. Now, a planetary fortress is what you want to do when you have multiple bases. Usually your 3rd base on is a planetary fortress unless they're in the back of your base and more secure, because you can only have your army at certain places at certain times. You can't have your whole army everywhere at once, especially as a Terran. Zergs, they can get away with it with Mutalisks and Speedlings, that kind of thing. But as a Terran, your units are slow. I mean, the Marine, this is the average speed is 2.25, so you're not going very fast as a Terran at all. I mean, Protoss has more mobility because they have 2.95 on their Stalkers. Their Zealots, once they get their leg upgrade, are 2.75 and have charge. So, in general, Terran seems to be the least mobile race, which is why these planetary fortresses are a must. And also, from the 3rd base on, as a Protoss player, you want to start building cannons at your base, because it's a similar thing as the Terran player. You just can't be everywhere at once. You can warp in, which really helps as a Protoss player to defend drops against drops and all sorts of other things. But Terran players, they have to rely on bunkers, and as you can see, we've got a battle going down here, 87 to 111. See how this plays out, but right now we've got bunkers are just going down. Bunkers. I don't know if Sterling's going to be able to hold this off. We've got the planetary fortress joining in on pairs, going in on the bunkers. The Marauders are doing a pretty darn big number on everything. So the Terran players actually pull back. Immortal does get sniped down. Actually, that was a pretty good exchange on Sterling's part. He was down 20 food, now he's only down 10 food. Or he might have been down 30 food, but in general, the planetary fortress and then the repairing of the buildings helped him stay alive during that encounter right there. So the Protoss player does have to pull back, because he did have this 3rd base going for a little bit, not a ton, but he did have it. And if we look at the unit counting station, we can see he has 52 SCVs and 62 probes.